You're listening to Zoom the TBT with Charge and Hayner.
This is Zoom the TBT with Charge and Hayner. We are starting our regional previews. It is that time of year. Charge, how hype are you?
Yeah, no, really hyped. I mean, we're 14 days away, so just a short 2 weeks from the Wichita regional kicking off, and this is a special region this year. It's the mega region, so we have 2 sets of 8 plus a quarterfinal going on there, so there's a lot to be excited about heading out to Wichita, and we're excited to preview it. We're going to call it Wichita A and Wichita B, and so tonight we have some really, really special guests to talk through Wichita with us. Head coach and GM Zach Bush of the Aftershocks. Welcome, Zach.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and Monty Patel, the head coach GM of Team Arkansas.
What's going on?
How you doing
Good to
tonight?
see you guys.
Yeah, I can't wait to get to Monty's team. I trash talked them slightly earlier in the cycle.
Hi, Courtney.
So,
What'd you say to Courtney? I'm trying to remember.
I said he's on the older side. He's on the older side. So I may hear about that a little bit as we review the Team Arkansas team.
Courtney, you can come on with me anytime to make fun of Charge. We'll pre-tape. It'll be a blast. We'll just release it onto him. So, guys, first of all, let's go to Zach briefly before we get into the brackets. You guys are hosting again. It's been electric in Wichita. So why does TBT keep coming back to Wichita?
Yeah, I think just the fan base. It's been a lot of fun. Monty and the Arkansas group have been, so I think they can attest to it's just a cool environment. Even if you're not the home team, it's fun to play in that kind of atmosphere. So obviously, the number of tickets we're selling, I'm sure plays into that. Making TBT money is, probably a big priority for them. And so, fortunately, our fans have been just great. The fans in Kansas, it's just a basketball state. They love ball, whether it's, college, high school. And now TBT is just given a unique opportunity for fans to see good high-level basketball in the summers. And I'd like to think we have a pretty intelligent fan base. So there's a lot of names that come back, even if it's not for our alumni team, but some of these other teams, they remember these guys. They've watched them in the past. So I think that just continuously feeds and snowballs, and it's just been great one year after another. And you've had all kind of crazy stuff, these great Elam Enders. And then you've had, the Oklahoma State team alumni group that, comes back from down like 40. It wasn't that much, but down 20 or something, like crazy runs and just good high level basketball. So I think it's just been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a great place to watch the ball. I've heard. Now, Monty, you also were there, I believe, last year, correct? You guys were there last year.
2 years ago.
And, 2 years ago. 2 years ago. You won some games recently. So you guys be that too. Like, what kind of crowd goes Wichita? Like, do you enjoy playing there?
Yeah, I mean, even Wichita and Omaha both had good crowds. We were a game away from getting to play the Wichita team, and I think that's where our Arkansas guys thrive in, is just like a hostile environment. So we would have been excited to play. I'd rather play in a full gym than an empty one where you can hear everything. And they do a really good job over there hosting. It's a fun environment. Staff's really helpful over there, and I know they got a couple managers, GAs from the school working it too. So it's fun.
Yeah, I'd like to get out there one year. I mean, I think TBT will keep going there. I've heard Wichita's a wonderful city, so I'd have to go out and see it sometime. Won't be in the cards this year, but I can't wait to go. Charge, should we bring up the bracket and start talking about the actual road these guys have to face?
Yeah, let's bring up the bracket. So this is one half of Wichita, and obviously led by the Aftershocks with the 1 seed, and with the recent success, not just being a home host in Wichita, but the guys have performed unbelievably well in the past couple of years. So have that nice number 1 seed taking on the number 8 B1 Ballers. Team you're going to be excited about as we deep dive, Beale Street Boys, the Memphis alumni team, taking on those Broad Street Birds, the folks from Temple. And then on the other side, so you'll probably maybe meet the finals. You got Team Arkansas taking on the Ram Up team from Colorado State. A lot of alumni teams in this bracket, which I think is really cool. As Zach mentioned, they're going to know some of these names. And then, of course, K-State, the Kansas State guys, purple and black versus the guys who played last year. And Monty knows a little bit of something about those guys. So, I mean, just a really solid bracket. I think a good depth of teams, great alumni teams. And so it should be really fun to watch this one.
So real quick, Zach, like looking at this bracket, how interesting would a K-State, Wichita State final be if they're able to knock off Team Arkansas and the guys? Like, how much fun would that be for the locals there?
Yeah, it'd be a blast. I was on the team at Wichita State from 2013 to 2017. We had a great run. That was the Final Four and undefeated teams, all those. And at that time, we couldn't get K-State schedule We couldn't get KU. It's been tough times the past few years, and now all of a sudden, those games have suddenly become available for both schools. Kind of funny how that works, but our fans would love it. We've played K-State the last couple of years, but fans just eat that kind of stuff up. There's a ton of KU fans in Wichita. There's a ton of K-State fans in Wichita. But yeah, as you said, at the same time, I've definitely seen Team Arkansas play, and we know how good those guys are. And not to gas you guys up too much, Monty, but we have respect for those guys, and they clearly do it the right way. So we know it's going to be serious talent, whoever comes out of that side of the bracket. But fans would obviously, I think, have interest in either purple and black with the in-state rivalry, or Arkansas is only 5 hours. Arkansas University is like only 5 hours from Wichita, so fans are familiar with them as well. With one of our guys a couple years ago, Ricky Council, transferred to Arkansas, and some familiarity there either way.
Yeah. So also looking at this too, of the teams as well, is like Charge mentioned, there are 6 alumni teams here. This is a very heavy alumni group. So Monty, what built-in advantages does an alumni team have?
I mean, I think just the continuity of knowing each other, like who they want to play with, who their old teammates were, getting back together. I'll tell you, one of the most fun things that Sonny started for us was the first year that I was with him on TBT. He's like, we need to do something fun and like a tradition. So we booked the best steakhouse in Wichita. I couldn't even tell you the name of it. It was phenomenal. But we booked that, and we all hung out. And you hear all these guys, past Razorbacks, telling stories about their coaches and their experience, and us just sitting around at the dining table like a family. And me, like, I didn't go to University of Arkansas, or really wasn't a part of that staff or team or anything. So just listening to the stories was fun. But I mean, just these guys knowing each other makes it a lot easier to recruit, makes it a lot easier to figure out who wants to play together, what era of guys we need to get. And you just kind of figure out, what to put together.
So, Charge, these guys are getting to play. The Aftershocks to play on their home floor. They played there as college students. They've been back for summers to ball with their friends. Obviously, home cooking helps. If memory serves, last year was a game the Aftershocks played where I believe the last possession was a steal, which looked an awful lot like a football tackle, if memory serves. Charge, how much does the home whistle help a team like the Aftershocks?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, one play doesn't make the whole game. Got to give Aftershocks the credit for what
they played great. I'm just talking shit.
But yeah, obviously, when you have a crowd like that, I mean, I've never reffed. I have zero interest in from reffing, but it'd be hard not to get caught up in some of the moments that are going on in the crowd and the buzz and the hype. And so, well-earned win for the Aftershocks. But there's a couple calls that were a little questionable at the wrong time. But Aftershocks moved on. Aftershocks moved on. That's all that matters, right?
Well, they played great. I mean, and obviously you earn the home court in TBT by buying tickets. I mean, my team, which is the Beale Street Boys, which has previously been Memphis State or different types of Beale Street or Bengal Tylos Pums, had a regional in Memphis. In fact, Team Arkansas was part of that regional. And they sold, I think, about -13 tickets. So they're not going to get to host again. That's just how that works. The only 2 tickets they sold, I think, were the 2 I bought for my parents. That was pretty much it. So that's what happens. I also find this really interesting on the left side. You have this mini American Athletic Conference sort of invitational, because all 3 of those squads are, besides B1 Ballers, folks, are actually teams that play in the AAC now. And also, it's a good time for me to actually apologize to the people at TBT, because I've been kind of railing against them not looking for matchups. I have it on good authority, which we'll get to later in the show, that the Beale Street Boys asked to move to Wichita. They were not told, they asked. And we'll get into the reason why a little bit later, which I found very interesting, a little disappointing, but it made sense to me. Let's get in a little bit deeper now. Let's get into the actual matchups. And we're going to start with, if I get the things to work, this Aftershocks versus B1 Ballers group. Now, Charge, look at the Aftershocks roster here. We have Zach here talking about this. There's a lot of high-level pros here. Actually, let's start with Zach. Zach, how easy was it to recruit this team?
I mean, it's easy and it's not. It's easy in my mind of who we want. We're pretty fortunate right now. We've got a quality selection of guys who are playing at a high level overseas. But these guys, this is going to be the 3rd year in a row in Wichita and the 4th team in 5 years. So I'm sure, Monty can attest to this too. At some point, guys drag their feet a little. Maybe it's just us. I don't know. Guys, they spend so much time overseas that, I think a lot of them, some of them are just, basketball diehard guys who want to hoop nonstop. So those guys are easy. They're like, oh yeah, whenever, like whatever, I'm with it. But then you got guys who are like, bro, don't talk to me even until May. Like I just can't talk about anything. I just want to get home. They've been across the pond for 8.5, 9 months, and they just want to get back. So that part can be difficult. It's that, fine tuning of finding the right balance of getting, the guys and making sure they're committed, but giving them a little room. But we're certainly fortunate, got guys playing at high levels right now, and that part's, easy to choose from.
Yeah, you guys got a good core of well-known Wichita State guys, and then I believe it would have been in the bubble year, if I'm not mistaken. You guys were able to pick up Tyrus McGee, and obviously must have been a great atmosphere, great team environment for him to stick around and not got to go elsewhere after that 1 year.
Yeah, Tyrus has been awesome. We got him. So we were going to play in the bubble, and they had all the teams before. If you were going to play in the bubble, they had you do a Zoom with Dan, and we got on there and we had the team ready to go, and some big fan favorites like Kel Cotton, Terray Murray, different guys. And just as soon as they talked about like the quarantine period, when you get there, all of our guys are kind of like, yeah, man, I don't know if I can do this. And so we politely just said, hey, I think we're going to sit this one out. And then that following year we had Tyrus. We played Tyrus in the first round in 19. And he's just had a great experience and kind of become a TBT transfer for us.
Yeah, I love the concept of the grad transfer. It always cracks me up about these guys kind of become grad transfers in TBT. It's always funny. I mean, Monty, looking at this, like this team, one thing that our stats guy was able to do, thanks to our intern for doing this, is identify the teams they played for and also how recently. And every one of these guys played professionally last year. What an advantage is that to have everybody playing high level overseas? Does that mean they're all game ready? Is that like a luxury for a TBT team to have?
Yeah, I mean, I think just looking at it, one, everyone's League A. Like they're at the top league of whatever country they're in. I think my biggest struggle would be trying to pick out a roster. Like if we were to have hosted at Arkansas, so many guys come through. I know he probably has that problem. There's probably guys that want to play that they're like, I don't know if this is the time yet. And they've done a good job the last 3 years just putting their team together and figuring out, what makes the most sense to where they can make a run. Because you got to get the right type of players that want to play together and that are okay playing a role. I mean, I'm sitting here counting. They have 11 guys on the roster. It's hard to play 11. And those guys got to understand that. And that's what's, we have the same situation. Like we're not going to be able to play everyone every game. But do you want to be a part of it and keep helping us? And when your number's called, be a pro. These guys are all in top leagues. They know what being a pro means at this point, especially just even looking at their ages. The older you are, the more you know who you are. So you don't have to worry about as much variance in the game of them trying to do something to prove what they want to be versus what they are. So it's really impressive what they do.
Absolutely. And Charge, looking at this roster, I mean, you obviously have, Frank Camp shoots threes like at almost, on almost a 6 attempts, 40%. You got Willis can rebound. You got Walker to rebound. Do you think this team really has enough inside-outside chops to play both a slower and a faster game, both outside and inside?
Yeah, I mean, these guys have just stepped up the past 2 years. And when you look at their roster, it's just so deep. I mean, you're looking double digits all the way down the board. You guys got McDuffie, Lee, some big guys. I mean, these guys are going to be, once again, a really, really tough out. And I think Frank Camp, more than just the shooting, we all know how great he is on the court and the hustle, but he seems like the kind of heart and soul of this team that the fans get behind, the team gets behind. But yeah, I think they're going to be fine competing with whoever with this roster. They proved it the past 2 years and can play any style that's dictated to them.
Yeah, it's a pretty fun roster. And they get the matchup, the B1 baller. So, Charge, this is a team that's showed up before. They've been a late replacement team. They've been a team player, so to speak. But I think we can all assume that they are a fairly big underdog here. What's the road for them to try to pull off an upset here?
Yeah, this one's going to be tough. Obviously, the road is going into Wichita is a tough road. And, it's one of those ones we know in TBT. And I know Zach's not going to take these guys lightly or jump over this game and start looking towards, the winner of Memphis or Temple. It's just, they're still overseas professionals on here. You can see, different leagues, not quite the same as Wichita with all, Division I. But these guys can play and they're professionals. shots, and so they come out right. Wichita comes out missing some shots. They can get there, but it's a long road. It's a tough uphill battle, but we'll hopefully make a good game out of it. I'm sure the Wichita fans want a good blowout to get things started, but we want to be ready to play. This is going to be their third year, so they're not rookies at this. They're not going to come in and kind of be shell-shocked or in awe of the talent they're going to see. So I think they'll come right and put up a good fight, but Wichita obviously has the upper hand here.
So, Monty, obviously, I'm not going to ask you to give Zach a free scouting report because that's not what this is about. But let's say you were coaching the B1 Ballers. How does a team that's an 8 seed, and teams have won as an 8 seed in this event before, so it has happened. Like, what kind of mindset do you need to get out of Wichita for a win when literally you're facing 110% of the crowd?
Well, it's kind of like what you said earlier about the guys. These guys have nothing to lose. They know they're the underdogs. So why not go out there, bust your butt, hope you catch a couple of vets that are playing that are like more sleeping through the matchup and see if you can kind of put them on the ropes. And then towards the end of the fourth quarter, you just hope to make a run and some shots get made and some shots miss. So, I mean, right now, just looking to have 6 guys that say their last league was the NCAA. So these are some young legs coming through college that are just trying to prove themselves and hopefully earn a contract potentially. I don't know everyone on that roster by any means, but that's just what the mindset should be. I mean, you go in there scared, you get beat 40 really quick. Them runs turn in faster and faster every possession. So you just got to come in with who cares and play.
Scared money don't make money. Yeah, it's pretty funny. We'll see what happens. Zach, how do you keep your team from looking past these guys?
Yeah, I think it's just part of, your approach to the game. These guys, as we've talked about, they're obviously professionals, but, even in college, we always kind of came from a program where we didn't overlook teams. That was kind of an area that we prided ourselves on. We didn't want to be the team that got, upset in the exhibition game, or you're playing a bye game and you come in and get popped at home. Last year, it was a big, kind of focal point for us. We played D3. We knew they had some dudes who could really shoot it and get going. So just a mindset. You talk to the guys and kind of clearly express how, no matter what the seed is, everybody in this is a pro like you. It doesn't matter what league, and all that stuff kind of goes out the window. Nobody cares when you get on the floor. It's pretty much, can you go or can you not? And basketball is a rhythm game. You get guys that get hot and hit a couple shots and get some confidence. It can be super long night. So you got to come out, try to punch somebody in the mouth first, impose your will. And we're not naive to the fact that we play, essentially at home, and how much that crowd can help influence games. It's very apparent. We don't pretend like it's not a thing. So you try to get the crowd into the game. You try to just stick to what you do and not let anybody come out and get hot.
Totally makes sense. Okay, so this is a pretty interesting matchup. Good place to start the region. Let's go keep moving our head. We'll get to this one. And this is obviously near and dear to my heart. Anybody who watches our show, listens to it, knows I am a huge Memphis fan. So the number 4 Beale Street Boys, your Memphis alumni, versus the 5 Street Broad Street Birds. So first of all, before you can get into these rosters, Zach, you probably watch a lot of these teams because your team is in the same conference as both the Memphis and Temple schools. What are the first words that come to mind when you think about Memphis basketball or Temple basketball?
Some bucket getters, very familiar with Jeremiah Martin. My little brother was a walk-on at Wichita State. And so just a lot of these names, I can remember going to games and seeing, Jeremiah Martin filling it up. And then, guys like Taggart, that's an older name, but, I grew up in Wichita, so I can remember very well that 2008 national championship game when Mario.
Me too.
Yeah,
Me too.
I was, at the time, I grew up huge KU fan, so that was, life-altering moment. But can remember, Taggart a little bit, but just a lot of guys who, can play high-level, basketball and solid, like Tony's Cleveland. Like, they got dudes, not going to beat around the bush. We know they're for real, and it kind of strikes you as the kind of team that can come into a place in a hostile environment. They've got gamers. They can get it done.
Now, also, one thing people may not know about this is there was a small angle. Alex Lomax was originally a Wichita State commit.
Yep.
And Marshall very conscientiously, I thought very classically, let him go with no penalties because Penny got the job to be, and Penny is like basically a godfather to him. Yeah. So that was one of the nicer sort of college basketball coach being a good dude moves I've ever seen, is letting ALO out of his NIL to go, and national letter of intent, the letter of intent to go to Memphis. Says, oh, this is incredibly classy. Monty, Memphis is kind of an Arkansas rival. I mean, it hasn't been played in a while because you guys are scared to play them. But like, what do you remember like of that rivalry? Like, how close is the Mid South hoops of Memphis and Arkansas? Only a river separates them.
When Arkansas was back in the day when they were winning national championships and they were Final Four teams, a lot of their players came out of the Memphis area. And I mean, so there's a lot of tradition there. We know that. Really, I went to Arkansas State, so that was a big rival for us right down the road. And then when I was actually on staff as a manager, working up to be a coach and all that, but I have good nightmares still about Lester Hudson being an absolute bucket from UT Martin. He came and gave us, I want to say 23, 25 something, hit 6 threes. He was a dude. And just even seeing him on the roster, I hadn't got to look at that side of the bracket. I try not to look too far ahead. But man, that dude was good. And I mean, even Will Coleman, remember him? Sean Taggart, remember him? Because we played Memphis when we were at Arkansas State the year they got the runner-up. Sorry, but man, they've got a good team, and Memphis hoops is Memphis hoops. I mean, that's where you find some of the best basketball in the country. By all means, just got to get there, got to get to what your destination's supposed to be.
Speedy shot-making guards. Charge. You always say if you have a Canton player, you got a shot. So elaborate a bit.
Yeah. Well, first, Lester Hudson looks to be out, so he was removed from the roster. I was really looking forward to seeing him playing. So if you thought Courtney Fortson was on the older side, Lester's like up there. I mean,
keep digging that hole, George. Keep digging that hole.
But yeah, he is killing people over there overseas, and he did a short stint with the Cavaliers. So I was kind of hoping to see him play this year. He was going to play with some smaller team a couple 2-3 years back. It didn't pan out, and it'd been fun to watch him play and watch him go to work. But yeah, Chris Crawford is our charge guy. So me and Hayner have been doing this for a lot of years now with ZoomTheTBT, and you can see him geeking out with all this college hoops talk. And I'm more of a G League guy, and so obviously I gravitate to the teams that have charge players because that's where I kind of started my social presence and getting into this. But Chris Crawford, just really solid guy. I mean, he's a guy that's going to score, rebound, assist, play defense, and so when we saw him on the roster, we're just kind of loving what this team has. I think this team is going to be really, really good. I won't reveal my pick yet. It may have been just out of spite of Hayner, but this is going to be a tough team.
Yeah, it should be pretty good. I mean, the one thing I will say is my boys have been TBT multiple times. This is technically their 0-0, but the reality is they've done this multiple years, and they have never defended their seed, actually. They've always fallen short of their seed, so that would mean a first-round exit this year for my guys. Going ahead, getting to the next stop, you've got the Broad Street Birds. Now, if you think about Memphis basketball being shot makers, Philly basketball is just all elbows and all basically violence. So look at this roster. You got some nice players. Shiz Alston's really, really solid playing Japan. You've got some really solid players here. If you're scouting this game, and obviously, Zach, you have started to scout. I mean, obviously, you're scouting B1 first, but you've started, at least, I assume, looking at these teams. What strikes you about Broad Street, if anything, either from a standpoint of how they look traditionally or just a guy on this roster that worries you?
Yeah, I mean, a couple guys that worry you. Shiz Alston's, probably one of the first ones. I think a lot of our guys like Connor Frankamp, Daryl Willis, Marcus McDuffie, familiar with these guys. The first year we moved to the American, had some great battles with these guys and had some awesome ones these last few years. I think those first few years, like 2018, 2019, both had really good teams. So they're familiar with them, but kind of the same thing. They got some dudes like Quentin Rose, Shiz Alston, that can, go out and fill it up and have done that in games, like just one-on-one buckets, not even through the flow of the offense. They're scary too. That's a tough first round matchup between those two. And I think that's one of those things I think TBT's smart enough to do. They know Wichita appreciates, programs, and they are familiar with the AAC now. So then you send 2 AAC teams here, and that just, hypes up the fans even more, gives them another reason to come out, and they know these guys. So they, I won't say they scare me, but they certainly have our attention.
Yeah, and these guys here, it's kind of interesting how they ended up in Wichita. Obviously, it's a numbers game. Some teams have to move. Syracuse was so loaded. You already had Big Five out there. But I thought this was one of the more impressive efforts from the GM. And he's slipping my name now, but he's had been in the TBT a couple, 2-3 times before, but to kind of pull this team together, get really Temple driven players, a competitive team. I think this GM really stood out in the offseason because it's a cluster down there. We estimated maybe 16 spots open after you take the 32 and the locks like Gativerse and some of these other kind of new teams, big alumni teams that we're gonna go in there. So for him to put this team together, make it as competitive as it's going to be, and a first year kind of go was really nice job by those guys.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting too, because you look at this and I'm going to go back to Zach for one brief question. I know that the Wichita State fans are only slightly used to being in the AAC now. We'll call it the Conference of Misfit Toys. A lot of proud programs that have no real connection. Wichita State and Memphis were actually in the Missouri Valley way back when together a long time ago. I mean, a long predates all of us, even Charge time ago. But how in depth is the Wichita State fan base invested in their new conference? Do they consider Temple and Memphis rivals?
I don't know if they would consider. I mean, yeah,
kind of, right?
Yeah, it is. It's hard. We were in the Valley for so long. So much of our fan base is, a group that's loyal to the, history of the game and the history of the program and all that stuff. So there was a lot of excitement. It wasn't like we left the Valley and everybody's like, oh, what are we doing at the time? I mean, you had to. We'd lose, 1 or 2 conference games, and now we're at risk for, we're a bubble team all of a sudden, and it's like, man, what are we supposed to do? So, we made the move, and I would say fans definitely consider Memphis and Temple, especially Memphis, I would think a rival. You see a lot of chatter on social media. I don't know why, but Penny stirs up a lot of emotion with people. And so they probably do, especially Memphis.
Just a little.
Yeah, they've had great battles with Temple. So I would say probably so. You put it pretty well. It's the group of misfit toys that have no really where to go right now. Obviously hurts with some of the schools that just left, Cincy and, Houston, but still a great conference. And now I think the fan base's mindset is we need to be the class of the conference now. It should be us and Memphis and then everybody else.
Yeah, I think FAU, we're going to see if they can make good on their 1-year promise. And the thing that still drives me nuts about a game is he was calling the timeout. We're up 1. They didn't get the call. Next thing you know, they're in the Final Four. It's could have been us. It's a very, very strange thing. But yeah, we'll see what happens with the rebuilt conference. So this left half is pretty interesting. Let's get to this right half here. And hey, look at these guys. It's Team Arkansas against Ram Up. So let's start with this Team Arkansas thing. So first of all, Sonny Weems is playing, correct, Monty?
He is playing. He is excited to play. I mean, he is in.
He gave I read online there, he told his mom he was going to play, so there's 0 chance you can back out now. So his mom hasn't seen him play, I think, live in sometime, it sounded like. So so let's hope he runs. I mean, this is a very different team with Sonny Weems playing, so I hope it comes through because we want the best talent on the court.
So Charge, 35 isn't that old. Do you understand people can still play ball in their late 30s? Is that something you understand as a concept?
Yes, I do understand it as a concept. However, it is getting on the older side. Let's not play that it is, unless you're LeBron James and the guy doesn't age 1 year as he goes on. But obviously, no, these are still high level pros. I just get a little concerned when you start getting up there in the mid 30s, late 30s in some cases, and I've been proven wrong many times. Heartfire is a good example of that. Those guys are old. I think we added it up to 1 year. I think they had the oldest team in the TBT, and you saw what they did. So, and then I think it was Monty earlier talked about some of these guys that are a little older in their careers. You know what you're getting. You know what they're about. They have nothing to prove except what the agenda of that team is at that time, what they're capable of doing, how they play. So yes, but I still get concerned with the age factor.
So talking about the age factor though, so Zach, if you're building a team and you see some younger guys here, 26, 27, but a lot of veterans, what's the advantage of having an older veteran team? They just need less coaching. They know what to do already, correct?
Yeah, I think so. Typically maturity, if you're still playing basketball at that age, you're obviously doing something right. They're not handing out professional basketball roster spots. So these are clearly guys who understand how to take care of their body, understand, how to win at a high level, what winning looks like, habits on and off the court. So I think that's obviously a blessing to have guys like that. I won't say have to do less coaching, but you certainly have guys who understand how to play the game a little more. And I think Monty would attest to that. Like when you have guys in this who are veteran, and just kind of get it, it just makes it so much easier. And that's why I think you see teams sometimes struggle when they're first-time TBT teams, especially if they're young. Their guys are still trying to figure out the professional game. Not to say that they aren't going to be great pros, but there's still that learning curve and understanding, what are those little winning habits and winning plays and how you're supposed to play the game. And then even just from a personality level, like guys being unselfish. I think if you're typically playing this long, like I said, you're doing something right. You're able to get along well with others. I think that's kind of an overlooked factor in TBT. You've got to have, dudes who can, manage their ego. Like Monty said earlier, not everybody's going to play. You got to have enough dudes in this in case somebody gets hurt, somebody's ready to go, but you can't play all 11. And, if I'm going to have a guy that's going to sit over here and pout and, doesn't want to go in the game, it's like, that's going to be really tough. So that's certainly, you may say that they're old, but they're clearly still playing at high levels. And there's a reason, they're in this.
Now, one thing that's interesting about his team is obviously you add Weems, who's an incredible scorer, great shot creator, obviously a wonderful, wonderful player. But then shot creation will take a slight hit this year because one guy you'll notice isn't on this roster, and someone should probably tell some of the people at the home offices who actually got still on the show. They kind of screwed this up. If you watch the selection show, they mentioned that Barford would be on Team Arkansas, and actually he's playing for the underdogs this year. So, Monty, obviously, how do you replace having an all-TBT performer like Barford from a shot creation standpoint?
I mean, you don't replace. You just have to find a different identity. That's essentially what it is. Man, a lot of love for Barford. I really do. We have a great relationship. He texted me and told me he was going back to the underdogs, and it was going to probably be their last ride out potentially, and he just wanted to do that one more time with them. Yeah, of course, I was hurt a little bit by it. I was like, come on, man. We finally got to the point where we've got everything together we want on a roster, and now you've got to flip the script. But I understood when you throw in family, people he's known, loved, cared about for a very long time, you can't argue that. It was, it sucks, but you got to find different ways, and someone else got to step up. I mean, that's all it is at the end of the day, and you got to find ways to win.
I will say this, though. I think Barford might be just trying to save the powder because if you think of the TBT teams who have performed well and done well that haven't hosted yet, Team Arkansas's got to be at the top of that list. What would it mean to bring this to Razorback Central?
This is no knock on Zach whatsoever. If this were to happen at Arkansas, it would shut down. It is unreal. Like it was actually crazy talking to Dan. He said he never realized the Arkansas fan base until he turned on a baseball game, and it is packed out, sold out. The hog pens calling the hogs. He never heard that, and just the type of environment. I mean, Arkansas is hosting Duke this year at Arkansas in the ACC SEC Challenge, and the first pictures got thrown up was Calipari plugging his ears, and Kentucky players plugging their ears, and Auburn players this past year, as they were number one and Arkansas took them down, plugging their ears because it is so hard to play there, especially when the hog call is going. And if you could get it back in the historic Barnhill Arena, I mean, it would sell out, and there would be other games that just would sell out because Arkansas is such a basketball state. I mean, Kansas, obviously, basketball started there by every, stretch imaginable. But just the fan base we have no pro team. We don't really even have a split fan base because you've got the SEC, and then you've got teams in the Sun Belt, teams in the Southland. So it's like the pro team is Arkansas. And, respect to Kansas and what they can pull off with the recruiting they do. You got K-State, you got Wichita, you got Kansas, and everyone's got their, alliances. It would just be incredible. And it doesn't even have to be in Fayetteville. That's the wildest part of it. If we got it even in Little Rock, which would be better for TBT players traveling to an airport, we got it to Little Rock. They want to host it there. And UALR is like, we'll host an Arkansas tournament. Bobby Portis had a charity game at UALR and sold out a charity game. Every single seat was gone. So it would be incredible. I can go on a tangent on this for hours, but that's the goal. And then it's a phone call to Zach. How the hell did you manage all this? And what needs to be done, and how do you put it together, and how do you make it successful for it to come back? But man, that would be awesome. That's the goal. That's Sonny's goal. I mean, Sonny said the goal is to bring this to Arkansas one way or another. We just got to make enough noise to get the fan base excited about having it there and getting everyone in charge to want to do it.
Now, Zach, how bold is that from Monty, considering I think all the TBT attendance records are in Wichita. So if he's saying he's going to beat you guys on attendance, like he's basically writing himself a big check there, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give it to him. Like I know, growing up here in Wichita, I'm, not going to be, pretend to be naive that they don't have a great fan base. They do, and it's, in all sports. And I've had friends who've gone to school down there. I've had, friends who've played football there. It's a great place. I'd like to see the challenge. I think we got it on lock. We do have the attendance records, but I think that's something that makes TBT fun is when you have multiple environments like that. And no disrespect to any other regional, but I think we've kind of set a pretty good standard of what you can do. And I know this year it'll probably be challenged down in Lubbock. They've been on a roll, 2019, go to a national championship. And I know they've had some drama with coaching changes and stuff, but they love it down there. And I think it'd be a great environment. I know, Monty's writing a big check, but I'm not going to say it's crazy that it might cash.
It's wild because you think about it. Like, look, you have their arena that fits 10,000 people. You have Barnhill Arena, which fits 10,000 people. And then you have Bud Walton Arena that they built because they couldn't have enough people in there that has a seating capacity of, I want to say, 19, 20,000. And it sells out. It's so nuts to me, like, that this is our pro team. I mean, I'm dating a girl from Florida who has multiple pro teams. She's like, y'all don't even have professional sports. I'm like, no, we have the Razorbacks. That is our professional sport. Please do not disrespect them again. So, I mean, it's a big check.
Almost an ex-girlfriend.
But big
that's that line. You gotta watch that.
Big check, but I am very confident in that.
I want to see it.
TBT, I do too. TBT would want to have it in both places, and they would be very profitable.
Yeah, and I think the thing with Team Arkansas that stands out with me this year is Monty can attest to this, is just how hard the life of a GM is from year to year. So we talked about losing Barford, losing Dusty Hannas. There's 2-3 other guys that aren't on your roster that aren't going to be playing. I'm sure you're looking to backfill them, but you scrambled, made some really nice moves, picking up Brandon Wood and Jarvis Vernado. So it's just kind of constantly heading into this, plans change, people change, and just to put that together and still have a team that is likely to make it to the regional finals is really impressive, but just shows how much work the GM's doing and sleepless nights and hustling on the phones, texting random players to check out the status. It's pretty wild. So you did an amazing job bouncing back from those losses, Monty.
No, I appreciate it. I mean, it's easy. It's funny because one of the guys that y'all don't have on our roster on here is Willie Warren from Oklahoma. And I had reached out to Courtney about him, and he's like, that's my guy. Like, if we want him, we can get him. And he literally in a minute, Willie had committed. In 5 minutes, he was signed up. And Courtney's like, that's my bro. Like, and me and Willie get to talking, and I watch Willie give us 35 in college. But the players know, and Courtney said it best. I mean, he's not arrogant. He's smart. He knows who he is, and that's what we want. He's like, people want to play with me because I'm going to get them the ball. And like, yeah, you're 100% right. You make everyone's job easier because you're a seasoned veteran that understands the game.
Definitely. Now, you guys have a pretty interesting matchup going forward, too, because you have the Ram Up team. They lost their first round there. And I think this team pretty much – this Colt Iverson guy is massive. He's playing in Japan. And obviously, our stat guy made mistakes. I doubt he's scoring 318 points a game. That's probably a typo somewhere. But let's just say he's getting buckets, if not exactly 318 a game. But having that kind of size is a pretty big luxury. So first of all, Monty, like, I assume you started scouting this team. Like, they have a reputation under Larry Eustace, of being a physical team. Like, is this a team that's going to have to try to outwork you? Like, what is their calling card as you start scouting them?
I mean, they're huge, man. And size is semi-hard to find in TBT. And they've got 4 guys above 6'9". They're skilled. They gave LA Cheaters a run for their money. They were up practically the whole game last year when I just watched the highlights of that. I mean, they're good. And we're going to have our work cut out for us. I mean, even like we were talking about earlier with the guys. I mean, they had nothing to lose. They came out, gave us everything they had, and we went from a team that could have lost the first round to end up getting to the Sweet 16. So it's not an overlook. It's a lot of respect for these guys, what they've done in their careers, and us just trying to find strategy, mismatches, and adjustments throughout the game. One thing I know and I'm sure Zach knows this all too well, is you really don't even know your team's identity till about halftime of the game anyways, regardless of what goes on in training camp, but regardless of what goes on in those practices. It's like you start figuring out, like last year, completely different roster than this year, obviously, but last year is like our bread and butter was offensive rebounds. We were crashing hard, and that's what we started really, hammering in the next game and got the Omaha team off their feet. So with this team, we're just going to figure out where we are, hope the first half stays close, hopefully in our advantage, and then figure out what our identity's been in that half and start making just little adjustments here and there and seeing what we can abuse. But, I mean, they're a good team. You got to respect your opponent. That's what the good pros do. That's what good coaches have to do, and they're not a team we're overlooking. Even myself, aside from just knowing who's on the K-State roster, there's no scout for me being done there. That's passed off to a different assistant, and we all have what we all need to do to bring it all together. But this Ram Up team's good, and they fight, they're physical, they're active. So we're gonna have our work cut out for us, but our guys are gonna be up for the challenge, and that's all that matters.
Yeah. Now, Zach, looking at this too, obviously, this is a Mountain West team. Now, your team and my team are both in the AAC, which is a strong but slightly below the Power Six, the Power Five, plus the Big East. How much does being in a conference that has sort of more of a do or die conference schedule help these mid-major type schools in an event like this?
I think quite a bit. They've been in that situation where it's a lot of games where if you lose, you're not out of a tournament, but that it severely alters your season. And not that all these guys played at mid majors, but they're familiar in that territory, I think. But just looking at them, I mean, they got dudes like Prentice Nixon gave us absolute problems 2 years ago. Having trouble remembering the name of the team. We played them first round, and that was a dude we told after, like, hey, bro, if you ever looking to switch teams, like, holler at me, like Tyrus McGee situation. But yeah, like Monty said, you can't overlook anybody. These guys are all pros, but they certainly have been in, I think, an environment that they know if you lose, you're done, and kind of probably thrive in that a little bit. It gives them a little experience in that type of setting.
Yeah, it's interesting. We hear all these rumors of people recruiting on the court and how many players have actually played for a team and played really well against them and then ended up on that team. So Prentice Nixon didn't work out, but it's amazing. The recruiting starts for the following TBT, the on the court of the season that we're in. So really impressive. Yeah, the Ram Up guys have returned their top 2 point scorers with I'm not even going to say their names, Ogide and Magbo properly, but so they're going to be looking a lot like they were last year with some key new additions. So this is going to probably be one of the more exciting games of this Wichita A. I think teams are going to be matched up really nicely. And the other thing I found interesting that Monty said is, a lot of times you don't even know what your team's going to feel like until halftime. And we see it every year. Sideline cancer's been down, at half many times. Boeheim's Army, and it's just the best teams will rise to the occasion, make the adjustments. But this should be a fun one to watch.
Yeah, no, it should be a pretty interesting matchup. And I mean, what's interesting about this is you have 2 really condensed squads, and then you have this matchup, which is pretty interesting. It's pretty fun. So purple and black, the K-State alums versus the guys. I'll start with purple and black. Now, first of all, this is a really quality team. They're a long time. They've been in TBT 6 or so times. Pretty quality team, a lot of great players. But the question, we were talking about age earlier. Charge, how much longer can Jacob Pullen continue to be a force in TBT?
Yeah, he's only 33, so I'm feeling a little better about him. But as long as he keeps knocking down those Elam ending winners, he can play as long as he wants. Impressive game last year to push them a little bit deeper into the tournament. But these guys just real cohesive. Every year when I kind of think they're not going to be as strong as the year prior, seems like to come back better. So this is a scary team I would not want to take on. Not just because Jacob Pullen, but this team's been together for a lot of years. So I think there's less of that training camp. Let's get used to each other, and they just come out fighting. So solid team again this year.
So looking at this a little bit, though, first of all, Monty, have you started scouting this team? So I know it's difficult. Like, for example, these rosters are in such flux. Like, we're taping this July 5th. They'll probably be released a couple days later. The rosters may change a little between here and there. Obviously, these are constant moving target. I know you've had a roster change because you lost Reeves because he's going with his brother to go to Team USA, which hurts your preparation a little bit. On this roster, looking at it, who are you looking at as being a huge person you have to stop?
I mean, just knowing K-State, again, I'm telling you the truth. I haven't started on scout on them, but just aside from looking at the roster, Jacob Pullen, man, I used to watch him in college. That dude is dynamic. That dude is fun to watch. So I know he's going to, bring it by all means. I remember Henry Walker a ton. Marcus Foster, he was on the Creighton team last year. They are very good, very deep team, which is something you need in TBT for matchups. It'll be a fun scout to have if we're fortunate enough to get past Ram up. At the end of the day, you gotta get there first, and then when you do, you just gotta hope the ball is going in for us and not for them. But they've got a lot of bucket getters on that team, a lot of guys playing in very respectable leagues, so just tough.
So I got to ask Zach. It's funny. I applied to college in Kansas. I ended up going to Illinois instead, but I actually applied to KU because architecture schools, there's only a few per state because it's a relatively small major. In fact, what ends up happening is like there's only a few schools per state that you can go to. So I looked at Kansas, but what ends up happening is like, what is Manhattan like? So I thought about applying to K-State, but I heard that Manhattan's not the largest town. Like, have you been to Manhattan, first of all?
Oh yeah, I mean, you only have three Division I schools here. You got KU, K-State, Wichita State, and then Wichita State. We don't have football, so growing up, if you're a college football fan, it was tough times with KU growing up. K-State, always kind of had it going on. Been to K-State, we'd go out, outside of basketball season, we go up there to Aggieville. They've got a cool district of bars. It's a different setting. It's more country than KU. KU's a little more preppy, not all, but more rich kids. K-State's a little more country, but they get it popping out there, and it's a fun place. I don't know if you missed out on much. If you were at Champaign, I hear it's a good time, but we certainly could have found you a few of the good spots, a few of the good bars in Aggieville.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. My partner saw that I applied to Kansas, and she was staring like, "The fuck are you doing?" So it's not I'm like, no, and she's like, when I got in Illinois, it was one of the happiest days of her life. Actually, the happiest day of her life is when I didn't get into Texas because she did not want to go to Austin, and I didn't get in, and she was like, "Thank God." All right, Charge, what do you think? Like, what's this look like? Pullen's obviously great. Like, this is a team to be reckoned with, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I don't know how. Obviously, everyone's pulling for Wichita State, but I don't know. Zach could tell us how well the crowd showed up for K-State in the past, and so I'm assuming they have a decent crowd that's going to help propel that as long as they're not playing Wichita State.
Yeah, I mean they showed out in droves last year. I think they might have played the game before us, I want to say, and so we got to watch Pullen's shot live, and they go crazy. Like I said, Kansas being a basketball state and the community of Wichita. Similarly to Arkansas, we don't have, KC, has the Chiefs, and we got the Royals up there, but down in Wichita, you don't have pro sports. So Wichita State is, the pro team here. And then, K-State, they just got diehard fans. So they showed up in great numbers, and then they improved this roster. Like, I don't know if some people realize how good Marcus Foster is. Because he played 2 years at K-State and then transferred and played 2 years at Creighton, but the dude can go for real. And then even adding a guy like Kemal Stokes, who hasn't played with them. I think maybe played once, maybe he didn't, but sniffed the league for a second. Really good player. They got, this roster was, pretty decent last year, and then they teased Michael Beasley and all that, and I'm sure they'll still do that this year to get some fans to show up. I'm sure they got to do that, but this team's improved from last year, and they were good last year, so it's an exciting group.
If TBT if they really cared about money, which obviously they don't, they would have just gave them the 8 seed to let them play all instead of putting them on our side of the bracket. Would have made millions. And I don't know why. I just don't understand. Like,
right.
I will personally speak for Pump House in Wichita and let Ram Up and Purple and Black know there are free drinks for them the whole night if they go there before game day. But there won't be any after a game day, just before game day.
After a loss, there will be.
After a loss, yeah, then hey, go hang out. But I'm talking about before, while you're still in, just stop by, open tab, Pump House. I'm sure they'll take care of it. Zach probably knows the owner. He can probably get it done.
Hey, we saw some of the K-State guys last year. I mean, they had a game the next day. We saw them out in there, so I don't think they're opposed to it. They might already be in there. So if you pop in and slide some free drink tickets, you might be onto something.
I will Photoshop them into our graphics and throw them at them and say, y'all got it.
That's awesome. Okay, so oops, let's go back one. That's the problem with these damn slides. Okay, so this is the last team we're going to talk about today, which is the guys. Now, these are kind of a fun team, which Steve Marisol played last year. They're the YouTube joy. They have the fun games. They're out of St. Louis, where I went to undergrad. Actually, I'm a Warshoe kid for undergrad, and it's easy to kind of take them lightly because they're fun. They play basketball, but for fun. They have all these sort of skits and crap, and then like they can catch you though. And they almost caught you guys last year, right, Monty?
And I'm telling you, we didn't know who we were early. We had to figure it out. We started off hot. They made a run. DeMarco Owens actually popped his shoulder out of place in the middle of the game, popped it back in, and hit us for a 20 ball. It was impressive. And I mean, those dudes on the bench are just running their mouths the entire time, and it is entertaining. They're so fun. The video was fun. So I mean, a lot of respect to those guys. They played the pros. They themselves didn't jump in. I don't know why. If it's my team, I would jump in, but I think they'd rather be behind the video camera instead. But hopefully they come up in a Mario costume or a Power Ranger suit or something and just go bonkers during the game. You might as well get your views up. But no, they played their butts off last year, and they were a good team. So a lot of respect to those guys. They just miscommunicated on one big possession, and Courtney's a pro, a veteran pro, and knocks down the three at the top of the key and gives us the win.
Yeah. That's the one thing I didn't quite understand about the guys last year. I was expecting a much different team, and like I said, they are talented. They have true pros, but obviously you see TBT marketing them as their YouTube channel and kind of the slapstick stuff and Mario and whoever's showing up. And so I don't know if I want more of that or less of that. It's just I think the identity of what they bring is kind of mixed message if you're a casual TBT fan trying to figure them out. But to your point, they played you guys right to the end, and you look across their roster, guys playing in some high level European leagues, and so once again, no room for error on this K-State team because the guys will be ready for it.
Now, Zach, last year, DeMarco and Barnes and Barnett, dude, they're good. Like those dudes are talented. They're still pros. Just the guys sitting on the bench talking all the noise. Those are the guys that we want to see in the game. That's who we want to see.
Well, maybe they'll get a rematch shot. They can pull off an upset in Kansas.
Oh, yeah. That would, I'm not opposed to that either. I know they want the rematch. They had some choice words for me on their YouTube page, so I'd love to get back and play against them one more time. So that would be a lot of fun too.
Okay, let's do the picks. Let's put me in charge's money where our mouths are. We're going to make you a little happy and a little pissed. Let's see what happens here. So you're at the Shocks. Obviously, got my boys, Arkansas. And look, I'm nothing if not a homer. I'm picking Memphis. Of course I'm picking Memphis. I have to. It's contractually obligated. But this is a pretty tough region. So first of all, Charge, why'd you pick the Shocks?
Yeah, I'm sure Zach remembers this. We've had Zach on the show before, and I think it was 2 years ago. I said, "There's no way in heck the Aftershocks are ever going to make it out of the regional."
I can't believe my eyes right now. Like I can't believe you did this, Charlie.
I was like, "No way! I don't care if it's Wichita. There's no way." And over the past 2 years, a lot of respect for these guys. I think they have a great bracket. Zach's built. We talked about some of the teams in the past. UB's on a great 2-year run. Wichita is 1 or 2 wins away from, kind of being in that same light. And they've done nothing but prove they're a bunch of winners. And I think, with that home crowd and they, maturity and they get better every year, then we'll see them as the regional champs here.
Monty, why should we have picked your team?
I mean, I don't know. That's just up to y'all guys. Me. We're just coming in. We're trying to get into Arkansas, and then hopefully we get into Arkansas, and you get some legends like Joe Johnson back here in the home state, along with Sonny and Courtney. You get Dusty Barford, hopefully a Macon back. Even me, I tried my tail off trying to recruit Jeremy Evans. People don't realize he's from Arkansas. Arkansas just didn't recruit him for whatever silly reason back then. But I'm trying to put the all Arkansas team together, like guys that should have been here. Austin Reeves, like, hey man, Wichita wasn't what you wanted it to be.
Here we go.
Just come over back this way to the good guys, you and your brother. We want to put the team together, right? There's a lot of talent out of here that's playing in TBT, just on different teams. Archie Goodwin, another respectable name and player that's there. So for us, just you pick us, you don't. We usually like to prove people wrong. I know the Omaha crowd got into me a little bit on my interview because I said, man, I hope they bring a crowd because that's just going to be better for us. It's not going to be better for them. We like all that talking. Like me, I have a player right now, Devo Davis, that plays at Arkansas. He played for me in high school, and literally during the middle of the game, I talk crap to him. Like as my player, I literally tell him he sucked. He was overrated. He was never playing at Arkansas. That drove him. And like that Kansas game, you know, he went off and ends up beating them. But you look at all these road games, Arkansas usually has a good time on the road. They like hearing that stuff. And me, I tell Diva all the time, talk bad to me. Like this will be way more fun if y'all talking crap to me. I'd much rather have that.
Yeah, talk crap to me, talk bad to me. That's pretty much the ethos of TBT. All right. So anyway, this has been a lot of fun. I want to thank our guest, Monty Patel, the GM and head coach of Team Arkansas, and Zach Bush, the GM and head coach of the Aftershocks. Gentlemen, thanks for coming on and preview your region.
Appreciate you having us, man.
Thank you, guys.
Good night.
And this, as always, has been Charge and represent Zoom the TBT, and we are signing off.
Hope you enjoyed listening to Zoom the TBT with Charge and Hainer. Subscribe to YouTube, follow on Twitter, and give us your money.